Welcome to Window Dressing. This week, I bring you a video version of last year's MTV Summer series. 2025 marked the end of MTV as we know it, although it is not completely wiped from the airwaves. I wanted to mark its cultural demise with a bang, more specifically, the fondled trigger of Fiona Apple's gun. The video vixens like Alicia Silverstone and Erin, who lit up the visuals for rock gods, are the sisters of the siren writhing on the floor, mouthing vitriolic truths about gender dynamics. Fiona Apple's first album was released on July 23, 1996. The work is still her most celebrated, and it is excellent. But I suspect that what actually makes it stand apart in popular memory is that she had not yet been packaged as a feminist artist, meaning she had not yet been dismissed by the majority and was emerging as mainstream. And remember, this was the mid-90s, so alternative artists were the mainstream. Fiona was lumped in with the Lilith Fair crowd by her second album. She transcends categorization, especially one marked with the scarlet letter of feminism. The Lilith Fair was a music festival in the summers of 1997 through 1999, launched by Sarah McLachlan, that featured only female artists. The state of feminism, specifically the word feminism, was so stigmatized that even women who believed in equality would vehemently proclaim that they were not feminists. This stigma was the result of a decades-long campaign to devalue the movement by placing it at odds with American values. Not to mention the unintended result of second-wave feminism, which alienated a large swath of the female population by aligning power with traditionally masculine ideals. The controversial and iconic music video for Criminal was released in June of 1997. Criminal's lyrics strike a different tone than Limp or later works of hers. This song illustrates with striking awareness the masochism that becomes ingrained in young women as penance for their participation in the world. The lyrics include, "I've been a bad, bad girl. I've been careless with a delicate man. And it's a sad, sad world when a girl would break a boy just because she can." These words hint at some animosity towards the man she is responsible for breaking, simply in the fact that she calls him delicate. It's a setup for the forcible shame women bear. Masochism is the precept that she, open-eyed, chooses to sacrifice herself to this shame and not only wants to be punished, but deserves to be. She continues, "Oh, help me, but don't tell me to deny it. I've got to cleanse myself of all of these lies till I'm good enough for him. I've got a lot to lose, and I'm betting high, so I'm begging you, before it ends, just tell me where to begin." There is something incredibly sexy about these lyrics. It feels like being called a bad girl during sex. There are such ingrained notions of being dominated by men and being apologetic as a societal rule that succumbing to it feels risky. Her ability to articulate and participate in this unspoken culture is incredible. Deeply ingrained in this song and video is the statement that she is a criminal, yes, but she needs and in fact deserves a good defense. This is the best kind of writing. She can wholeheartedly say, "Teach me to be good, cleanse me," and in the same breath say that she wants to be defended against these accusations or actions. These two ideas are opposing on paper, but very clearly illustrate the reality in sexuality, specifically for women. It is the dominating principle in porn, for example. Fuck her, she is a slut, make her beg, and so on. This can be very hot to both men and women, but its hotness exists because of the underlying gender dynamics. Traditional gender roles have progressed in some ways. That progress has historically been marked by moving toward a more masculine presentation as a woman and rejecting the frivolous feminine. That frivolous feminine has recently gained power culturally. The coquettish wisdom of Lana Del Rey is deeply informed by the writhing siren represented by Fiona Apple. There is a line from Fiona's song Paper Bag off of her sophomore 1999 album, where she sings in sugary sweet disappointment, "I thought you were a man, but you are just a little boy." She may not have been the first to coin the specific phrase man-child, but I don't doubt that Lana Del Rey and Sabrina Carpenter were influenced by this period in popular culture, if not by Fiona Apple directly. The visuals of Criminal's video take all her wicked ways and desire to be cleansed and transform them into a living, breathing work of art about the commodification of female sacrifice and the eroticism inherent in self-aware self-harm. Irony and earnestness seep from the oversaturated digital snapshot style video. The first scene bleeds 70s revival with shots of dark green shag carpeting, wood paneled walls, and bodies strewn about ripe for kidnap style snapshots to be peddled on the black market. The Harmony Korine film Kids comes to mind immediately. But this aesthetic is way more commercial in its appeal. Criminal delivers the commodification of the culture of the early 1990s in an attractive yet exploitable package. It's shiny, like the electric purple Dodge Stratus featured throughout the video, serving as both an example of excess and a literal hiding spot for Fiona during her dramatic plea for guidance on how to escape her wicked ways. Consumerism as a place of respite is visible in the shelter offered by the car's plush leather interior. Fiona mouths the words, "I've been a bad, bad girl." She participates in the invasive voyeurism by turning the camera on us, the audience, as she shows us how aware she is of our lens looking at her, watching for a good performance to prove her regret, and in turn making us aware of the titillation we get out of her vulnerability. In her song Fast as You Can from her sophomore album, she vindictively spews the lyrics, "If you need my shame to reclaim your pride." This example illustrates that she understands the expectation that she not only participates in her shame, but plays to the camera as she does so. The resentment inherent in that knowledge further sexualizes her anger for the men in the audience by elevating the reasons to punish her. Her growing unwillingness to allow it eventually takes her away from the zeitgeist to the lonely land of alienated artists. These binary choices illustrate the ones workaday women face. Shame is expected wardrobe for women, just like white on your wedding day. Do you devour it, or does it eat you alive? I recommend eating it and letting the bitter taste remind you of who you are and not who they want you to be. In the next scene, Fiona lies on the ground in a quarter-length sleeve, slightly cropped, or to be more specific, shrunken top with subtle sparkle stripes. The look on first glance looks like it was purchased by catalog in the preteen favorite Delia's. But it's important to separate out influences here. I was 11, almost 12 when this music video came out. So that instinct in me is because I was a preteen who tried to duplicate her looks through catalogs like Delia's. They too tried desperately to copy these looks, but in a video like this, where all references are relevant and meaningful, it's worth taking the time to break down what at first glance looks like a very basic top. Unfortunately, I cannot accurately ID the shirt. AI has inundated the internet with misinformed bullshit, especially about details of cultural products. If anyone knows the brand of this shirt, please reach out to me via Instagram or comment on this episode. I'm endlessly curious. I'm wearing a Banana Republic dupe from the same time period that I found on eBay. The disco-era shimmer of the stripes calls back to a Brooke Shields in Pretty Baby, but this child has much more agency than the auctioned-off virginity of Brooke in that film. Her Calvin Klein denim ads are very much back in the conversation post Sydney Sweeney's disastrous, if not verbatim, revamp of the ads via teen exploitation brand American Eagle. Ironically, one of the major comparisons lobbied against Fiona Apple and this video specifically is that it was the MTV version of heroin chic, a look started in large part by Calvin Klein's child starlet model, Kate Moss. Fiona was not happy to have her work distilled down to a man's vision of exploitable flesh, but the audience really didn't get it. The exploitable flesh of Fiona came with a heart tattooed with poetry and a razor-sharp wit. She extends the child porn aesthetic in a shot where she is discovered in braided pigtails on the floor in a man's closet, looking positively captive, with a readable willingness to participate in her own degradation, a willingness that is a key aspect to the acceptability of porn in the modern era. The style of shot, the shiny gloss of her hair, only sheds its sin when she is active in the scenes. She goes from being caught in the closet to adoration of a naked foot in the bathtub. Her full participation in pornographic activities takes her out of the dull ache of shame and into the thrill of sex. She carries this forward by trading her Pretty Baby-esque disco nods to a full-throated silver lame-inspired top and cream panties worn in the back of a purple Dodge. The gray leather on nude panties and glitter top elevates the look from child bride to adult woman. She takes on the glint and glimmer of Jerry Hall in her Roxy Music era. She appears to be more playing to the camera than actually being exploited by it. Of course, to play to the exploitation inherent in the voyeuristic lens, there has to be exploitation to begin with. What is the saying? Violence against women depicted on film is still violence against women? That is absolutely true, but participating in the depiction doesn't make you the abuser. Your sex is the primary indicator of that particular label. Ghislaine Maxwell may be redefining that truth, but only through her unquestioning service to a man. I get the sense that Fiona, even with her face hovering over the crotch of a half-dressed, anonymous man, a shot that we circle back to from time to time in the video, is hardly acting out of service to anyone but her own awareness of her desirability when posed as a subservient child. The fact that her subservience is a quote-unquote criminal act in direct conflict with the love of a good man, or in her iteration, a breakable boy, is the brandy-soaked maraschino cherry on top. The video ends with the most childlike iteration of Fiona yet. She is sitting in the kitchen with layered lingerie, the silk and elastic edged variety that Mother used to wear. Certainly not the understated basics that ruled the era. The layered look only exists so we can watch her strip off her panties. Of course, another pair is waiting safely underneath. But the effect of a girl dressed in her mother's lingerie stripping in the kitchen packs a punch. Mainly that she is posing for us. She may be mired in shame, but she knows the exact effect it has. The genie in a bottle moment, when soap escapes its container and floats up like gravity doesn't exist in this sex pad, hits the nail a little too close on the head. The dirty girl just can't be cleaned. The genie is out of the bottle, so to speak. By the time Fiona's sophomore album comes out, it is 1999. And the transition period of the mid-90s has come and gone. Fiona is firmly written off as a feminist singer-songwriter, a write-off that wouldn't be so devastating if women weren't worth so little societally as soon as their opinions became part of the package. The late 90s feminism versus the early 90s was very different. Hole had gone commercial and was no longer the standard bearer. This is not a dig at Courtney Love. She is my forever role model. Feminism became more compartmentalized as an aesthetic, and as a result, we lost the ability to discern unique voices beyond their packaging. Don't get me wrong, the magic about Fiona's early music videos is the aesthetic that almost indicates to a T what the words can only do over time. But it got dulled down by a pool of similarly styled but wildly different female artists. Artists that I would argue didn't have the singular vision of Fiona. A vision that is detached from labels and movements because it is rooted in emotional truth. Without Fiona, we would not have the landscape of truth-telling female artists from all genres we have now. Limp is the grown-up follow-up to Criminal. If infantilization was the game in the voyeuristic, porn-esque visuals of Criminal, then buttoned-up, mildly matronly, but sizzling old Hollywood star power is the aim of Limp. The video opens on a seething Fiona lying quietly in bed next to an invisible manipulator, aka a man. The walls are an olive green, but in the low light they appear mustard yellow. She throws the blankets off her to rise, and the lights come on as she walks, like footlights following a star. She is dressed in a white cotton tank top and mauve maroon pajama bottoms. When she closes the bathroom door, the lights go on in a burst like the flashing of paparazzi bulbs. She prepares herself in a near sacred ceremony that involves red lips and 2 pools of slightly dirtied water in his and her sinks. She reaches for a bloodied burgundy nail polish of the high shine variety. She exits the bathroom and goes to the closet, closing the door behind her. The warmth of her touch illuminates the clothes and then the room. The sheer magnitude of beauty on each individual hanger doesn't just feel sacred. I know that it is. She dresses in a 1940s skirt suit with molded peplum waist and an odd ruffle at the bottom of the skirt. Her hair is back in a bun, and when she pulls the string to the bare bulb light, it flashes like the bulb of a camera, revealing her full red lips and darkly shadowed eyes. She is smiling. It is not the joyful smile of a child, but the mildly wicked smile of a grown woman, one with power. As she steps into her rage and down the staircase, she mouths the words, "He fondled my trigger and blamed my gun." Her plainly stated case for why mutual abuse is a farce hits harder than he does. Lit by the red of Christmas lights strung across the banister of the staircase, she descends to a warmly lit wood-paneled library in which a round table holds a puzzle. She puts it together piece by piece. The word angry is written in red in the corner. The chorus rings rage. When I think of it, my fingers turn to fists. I never did anything to you men. No matter what I try, you beat me with your bitter lies. So call me crazy. Hold me down. Make me cry. Get off now, baby. It won't be long till you'll be lying limp in your own hands. She lies down on the couch underneath a blue blanket and watches herself on the TV screen. The shot jumps and skips from her rather exhausted body on the couch to her shining face on the screen. The close-up on her red-lipped face feels very Hollywood heroine of yesteryear to me. The power of a beautiful face as opposed to an opposable body rings true in all her videos. Even Criminal, which is so porn-influenced, does more with her face than her body. The time spent on her image in reality versus through the perception of the TV screen speaks to her awareness of being perceived and therefore visible as she truly is. But the use of the 1940s peplum skirt suit and her makeup gives her a power source that transcends her assigned roles. She is a woman, self-possessed and aware of them. She is no longer playing to them as much as embodying what serves her. This breakdown in the type of participation she is willing to have in her role as an object of desire marks the realizations of growing up female. It's ironic that by third-wave feminism, we were looking to the 1940s for guidance on how to be embodied and female in society. Perhaps irony isn't the word. With each new iteration of liberation, something gets left behind, or more aptly put, sacrificed. And being that we are talking about women, that sacrifice is usually ours. So it's not irony, but just the accepted course of events that we cannot have it all. Or as it turns out, much of anything at all if it isn't in service of men. There is another video from this album for the song Paper Bag, in which Fiona is dressed in a knockout 1940s bias-cut silk red dress, dancing in a choreographed musical number featuring vintage luggage and a lonely girl letting go of an illusion of a lover whose hands, according to the chorus, are too shaky to hold. The 1940s influence on the visuals and the common color of red don't just simulate being trapped in a time when roles for women were limited, or with the anger associated with having to play into society's trap. It speaks more to the lifeblood of being fully formed and aware. It's always a mistake to view progress as such. It, like most things, is not linear and comes in rounds that tend to wash away key components of our struggle, only to be rediscovered through signs and signals delivered in messages that are made for only us to understand, namely costume and makeup. This language is always in everything, and it tells us all we need to know about a woman's place and her plan to survive or escape it. There are very few artists who struck such a powerful note with words and images as Fiona Apple did in the 1990s. This was truly the last splash of productions supporting artists' visions commercially. I am in awe of how perfectly the pictures communicate the nuance of emotion in her work. In the last scene in the Limp video, Fiona returns to her bedroom bathroom. She stares at her reflection in the mirror, the same ritualistic spot of her midnight transformation. She tears her hair down, taking it out of its sleek bun in a fit of rage that is visible on her still made-up face. The structured bodice of her skirt suit jacket is replaced with the loose braless silhouette of her white tank top and pajama pants. Her anger spits and seethes as she returns to her plain clothes. The rage of her red lips holds the memory of her awareness, but she must return to her work of sweeping up the cinders. The Cinderella reference aside, it is all in service of her role as a man's something, girlfriend, object, wife, whatever. She is powerless to stop it and unable to go back to it, unaware as she was when she was a child. Fiona's work goes on to be a lesson in modern-day womanhood. In her fourth album, which came out in 2011, she again answers to an earlier video from her freshman album. The first song, Never Is a Promise, features a broken-hearted Fiona singing to the camera in a blurred background of a cityscape. In 2011's Every Single Night, she stands now fully grown, but just as vulnerable in a similar scene. But this time, instead of singing Never Is a Promise, she muses about the fight she has with her brain every single night. I could go on about her most recent work, but it goes beyond the heyday of MTV music videos and gets into a more diluted realm of visual culture where the internet is the primary medium. So, in the name of a completed thought that began with the erasure of Erin Everly in the Guns N' Roses trilogy and ends with the white-hot rage of Fiona Apple's cherry red pout, I am signing off. Thank you for listening to Window Dressing's MTV Summer Series. Please like and subscribe to this podcast wherever you are listening or watching, and follow me on Instagram at Window Dressing Podcast or on my personal account at Madeline Jane Auble for more content. I'm Madeline Jane Auble.